right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar to discuss navigating the current environment as a business owner. And we're excited. We have a lot of great things to share with you, but just to do some introductions here, my name is Josh Antis. I'm the Financial Education and Community Partnerships Manager for California Coast Credit Union. And actually, before our introductions, some quick housekeeping items. Everyone's going to be placed on mute for the duration of the presentation. However, if you do have any questions at all, please feel free to type them into the question box or the chat box, either one, and we will address those towards the end of the presentation. And also, once we are done today, you will receive a survey either by email or you can fill it out at the end of today's presentation. It's just a survey to give us feedback on how we're doing. So if you could take the time to fill that out, that would be great. That helps us to improve as we go. Well, I hope everyone is safe and doing well, healthy. Again, these are difficult times, and we want to make sure that we are here as your partner to provide whatever resources we can. So today we have a really, really great presentation for you. We have our business lending team here. So I want to go ahead and introduce Rob Disotell. He's our Chief Lending Officer. Along with his team, we have Lisa Chelly, our VP of Consumer Lending, and also Angel Nolasco, our Business Services Officer. So they are a dynamic trio. They are a wealth of knowledge and they're good at what they do. So excited to have them here. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Rob, and he's going to kick us off.
Great, thanks, Josh, and welcome everybody. And just to make a quick correction, it's Lisa's head of commercial lending, not consumer lending. So,
oh, I'm sorry, did I say consumer? I apologize.
Yeah, that's consumer. But anyway, no, thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully, we make it worth your while. This is a passion that I have. I love working with small businesses. My background before Cal Coast, and I've been here about 9 years. I work for a community bank up in the Seattle area in commercial lending. And so I just find what small businesses do is inspiring, and I love learning about each and every one of your types of businesses. And it's something we want to expand on here at Cal Coast. And so just briefly, the overview here is I'm going to give you my perspective on a couple things. One is, well, I'll tell you what I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to tell you how to run your business. You are the experts. You have the passion. You have the drive. You know your market. Over time, I've learned enough about different industries and business types to know certain facets of it, but you are the experts. And instead, what I want to talk about is kind of what I've seen as consistent things that businesses do that are best practices that cause them to be successful. And the other thing is to show you how you can partner with your financial institution, us, in terms of how we can help you better leverage what you're trying to do. And so give you some tidbits there in terms of how best to present your business to the financial institution so that you can have success in obtaining financing or other goods, other types of products and services. And then when I'm done, Angel will talk a little bit about what types of services and products we do have and offer. And then Lisa will go into what are the resources out there right now, particularly in this pandemic period. What are the type of emergency loans and special types of programs that are available to small businesses, both locally, state level, and nationally? So, and what we're doing to offer those. So that's kind of the overview. So I want to also say that I'm familiar with small business in that my wife has run a small business for, 25 years. And my daughters run a small business. And I thought, if you don't mind, a little bit of fatherly pride, but I'm going to talk a little bit about their small business and then how it relates to some of the things they did wrong and some of the things they did right and what we've learned from it, and kind of use that as an example. So if you don't mind and indulging me a little bit, we'll talk about their operation, and kind of it's very poignant in terms of how it all happened through this pandemic too. So if you don't mind, Josh, if you could move on to the next slide. So what they have, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but basically they've created a company called the Bubble Tap Trailer, and it is like a food truck, except it dispenses sparkling wine and other beverages, and they use this for corporate events, music festivals, weddings, that sort of thing. And so when they started out, it was a real labor of love, as most small businesses are. And if you can move to the next slide, Josh, I can kind of go through some of the things that we really looked at and what are the components of their business and as a small business in general. And so they clearly laid out a pretty well thought out business plan. Now I know there's that, oh my gosh, there's the Harvard business plan, 50 pages. Really not. It's really important for small businesses to have that roadmap. And if it's more than 3 pages long, it's too long. It should just really be succinct and show where you're going, where you're heading, who your market is, how you're going to reach them, how you're going to grow, how you're going to process your goods and services. But it can be pretty succinct, and they put a lot of thought into this, and I think put together a pretty good business plan. So I hate to start out with that because everybody tells you to to build a business plan, but it is important, and it's important to show the lender that you have a roadmap on what you're trying to do. Profit margins, and I would say margins in general, really knowing your balance sheet, really knowing your income statement, understanding trends, comparing 1 year to the next or one period to the next, understanding what changes are taking place at that granular level. I would assume most of you deal with QuickBooks. I'm semi good at QuickBooks, but I'm not a bookkeeper. But QuickBooks is important. We'll talk more about that later, but having that basic financial reporting is really important. And I'll give you an example. Not to go into too much detail, but I noticed that their cost of goods sold had increased. And we talked about it, we looked at it, and we looked at the measurement and where it was going. Well, it turns out, and I'm sure you all can relate to this, or at least many of you, is that their supply chains dried up during this pandemic. Manufacturers aren't manufacturing as much, wholesalers aren't carrying as much on their shelves. They had to resort to, buying stuff retail, some of their product and some of their supplies that they use. And so we stepped back and said, okay, what's important? Let's refocus on those vendor management and those vendor relationships. Let's reset up those supply lines, because it really made a difference in their net profit. And so really understanding your numbers at a granular level is important. Cash flow cycle, which we're going to talk about in a bit, really understanding how your cash flows through your business, absolutely important. We'll talk about leverage and then ownership. And so, Josh, if you could move the slide forward there. I can't put more emphasis that I already have on cash conversion cycle and understanding it. And it's a fancy word, it's a fancy term that we use in lending, but really it's really, okay, here's what you use your cash for. It's materials, services, whatever you need to develop your product or service. And then you have to pay those suppliers through an accounts payable process. Then you pay them, and then you start converting, to sales. So then you have the sales, and then you may give terms on those sales. It may be net 15 or net 30 or whatever, and then it turns into a receivable, and then it eventually turns to cash, right? And so every business has one of these. It might be very short if you're a service organization or service company where You know, you're not manufacturing things, you don't have inventory, you don't have goods, you don't have works in process. You just do the service and you get paid, and it's a pretty quick cycle. But there's always something that you're having to pay through that cycle. So it could be really short, or you could be, oh gosh, a manufacturer, a machine shop, contractor. Contractors have very long, typically long cash flow cycles. And then they're really complicated when they have a construction project and they have change orders and they have to manage that. So can be very simple to very complex. Here's where we come in play. We provide that link via a line of credit to help you through between that cash out and that cash in part of the cycle. And so that's where we can really help small businesses, which are typically undercapitalized. My daughter's business is undercapitalized. They're always undercapitalized. That's where we can really help out. And the other saying I love, and I've said it for 44 years now, it's a great saying: cash is cash, but profit is just an accounting term. So it's managing cash flow, not just making a profit. So I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but those are things that we put a lot of emphasis on. Josh, if you could move to the next slide. Leverage is another thing we look at in assessing a company, and you can really manage this well if you're careful. But the best way I can do it is show you this example. Leverage is just simply your amount of your liabilities divided by your net worth. That is how much more liabilities than you have net worth. And so you can see company A and company B there. They have different size assets. They have different size liabilities, right? They have the same net worth. And so if you put a lot of emphasis, they both have $1 million net worths. Which one's more risky in this situation? Well, the one company company A is going to weather downturns better because their liabilities are at a 1-to-1 ratio to their net worth. Whereas company B, you have liabilities 9 times what their net worth is. And so if they come into cash flow issues, it's going to be harder to service that debt on those liabilities than it is company A. And so we look at leverage, and it depends on the type of business, but you know, if you're in the range of 2-to-1 to 3-to-1, then that's generally acceptable, depending on the type of business you have. Fortunately, and my daughters, they have a fairly quick cash flow cycle and they have high profit margins, so they haven't needed a line of credit. But when they expand, they will. So that's another topic. So leverage is important. And one thing I wanted to point out, and this is pretty true with small businesses where you're using your own capital to fund, operations, not so much working capital, but that permanent capital you need for infrastructure. A lot of times I see owners then make personal loans to the entity, and that goes in as a loan, that goes in as a liability, and that will increase your leverage. You can do it another way. You can make it a capital contribution, in which case it goes to your capital line, capital paid in line, and it will not go towards your leverage. And that way, from a lender standpoint, we can see less leverage and we can see more skin in the game, I guess, if you will, from the business owner. I will give a caveat though. Don't take my advice. Always talk to your accountant what's the best way to structure your balance sheet. But I'm just telling you from our standpoint, that's how we look at it. And that's how you can make your bottom line, your balance sheet look good and have a better ability to gain a line of credit or a larger line of credit. So next slide. So again, I talked about, I think you're the key, right? Ownership. You know, there's a lot of good ideas out there. It's putting them in place. And so again, the business plan that we put together was important. The professional team, that was a bit of a struggle with them, I will be honest. They had an accountant, they had an attorney. I insisted that they do that. It just is so important. But we kind of cobbled together their bookkeeping, and their operation became somewhat complex, and we had to get a bookkeeper in. for them, and they had a lot of fixing up to do in QuickBooks. Believe me, QuickBooks is a great tool, but it has a lot of openness to it. There's not a lot of edit checks in there. You can screw up balance sheets, income statements, receivables, processing payments, depreciation schedules. It's all in how you set it up, and you can go wrong. QuickBooks won't correct your mistakes as much as like a TurboTax, for instance. So you really need a bookkeeper, depending on the complexity of your operation. But I really highly suggest that. I know you're all smart. I know you can learn it, but that's not what you should be doing. You should be planning. You should be working on your business. And so I think that professional team is absolutely important, as much as, you know, generally capital is valuable to invest in that professional team. We look at that, and that will in turn generate properly prepared financial statements. And again, we have a lot of faith in you as a business owner. If you come to us and wanting a line of credit, knowing that the financial statements are good, they're balanced, they're complete, they have schedules, you know where you stand. And if we know that you know where you stand, then you're going to manage your loan and manage your business with us properly. Generally, there's different levels. If you have your accountant prepare, there's management prepared, which you just get right out of QuickBooks. That would be the baseline. And then you have compiled statements that you'd have your accountant do. That's the next least expensive. Then there's reviewed, which gets a little more expensive, and then audited, which are for fairly large companies. You really generally won't need to get into that. But we do look at the quality of this financial statement based on the complexity and the size of your operation, the amount of revenues, that sort of thing. Character is huge, and especially at a credit union, we put so much emphasis on relationship, and character is reflected more than just the credit score. We go well beyond the credit score. We see how long you've been in business, what how you pay your payables, how you manage your receivables, how your workforce interacts with you. We get to know your business. We come and visit. We talk to people, and that's the most fun of the job, is to get to know your business. And Angel will certainly be meeting with you if you find you need our services. So character is huge, and ability to manage in all economic cycles. And boy, nothing's more important than this topic right now. And in fact, we see it, right? When you go to a restaurant, they've made all these accommodations, or other retailers, or that sort of thing. We're seeing people adjust. It's phenomenal, and it's inspiring to see. It's also disheartening to see others that just haven't been able to make that adjustment. In this particular case, and this is why I wanted to use them as an example, is that as you can tell, they're a live event company. What part of the economy has been hit the hardest? Live events. They're still not up and running. And so they took the downtime as the pandemic hit, and really strategized about what the direction is. They did some long-term strategizing, which I want to talk about in a little bit. They did some medium-range strategizing, and then they said, okay, how do we pay our rent next week? And they came up with an idea, and it's a pretty cool idea. They with all the virtual meetings and conferences and seminars and birthday parties, all are done virtually. They just took their product virtual, and they created these mixology boxes. They've created these different types of cocktails, and they ship the boxes out to the convention or the seminar attendees or the birthday party attendees or whatever the event is. And they do a virtual how to make the drinks. They have fun with it. They do trivia, everything virtually. And they have outperformed 2019. Just that one little change. So that's a little bit of the father coming out of me and the pride, but you know, it really speaks to staying within the moment and thinking long term. And I have a slide on that at the end that I'll save. But anyway, so next slide. Josh, there you go. I'll tell you, one of the things that I've seen more businesses not succeed isn't because they haven't been able to sell their product or their service or their idea. They just haven't been able to manage the growth. How do you grow? How do you build infrastructure that's permanent? That's that permanent general and administrative expense on your profit line, or your expense line, I should say, and working with margins that, you know, and paying staff and all that. Managing growth is hard, because you need to build. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you build that infrastructure, or do you build the sales and then try to back into the infrastructure? So it's tough, I believe me, and I don't have a great answer for that. There's a balance to it, but there's some things that I think, some suggestions that will help in that regard. Again, know your cash flow cycle. And I was going to include it, but it's kind of getting in the weeds. But I will say, if you'll write one note down here, just Google accounts receivable turnover, and the same thing with accounts payable turnover, or inventory accounts turnover. You can Google it, they'll tell you how to calculate it. But basically, you can look at your income statement and your balance sheet and figure, you can see how long it takes to collect on your receivables, how long it takes to pay on your payables, how long it takes to turn your inventory. And if you know that, then you can properly prepare proper inventory levels, proper you know, ordering inventory, you know, that sort of thing. So knowing that cash flow cycle is really important, and putting it into a quantifiable number. So again, AR turnover, AP turnover, inventory turnover, you can Google it. There's all sorts of stuff out there on the internet, and that's important. Proper balance sheet structure. Another thing that will help, and believe me, if you're working with Angel, he won't let you imbalance your structure of your balance sheet. And what I mean by that is, we look at funding short-term liabilities with short-term assets, funding long-term liabilities with long-term assets. And the accounting definition of that, I'm sure, again, I'm preaching to the choir, but just want to make sure, short-term liabilities or assets are liabilities payable or assets collectible converting to cash within 1 year. And then long-term is over 1 year. So for instance, if you have a line of credit and you want to buy a piece of equipment, please do not use your line of credit to buy that equipment. That equipment is designed to be paid off over time, on an amortizing period. What you've just done is taken that section of that part of that line of credit that you can use to pay for your goods and, you know, other things that you're having to buy for. You've just used that up. You can't use that part of that line of credit anymore. It's your line of credit has just been reduced. So we want to make sure that you're properly balanced. Your balance sheet is properly structured. I've seen this a lot. Pay attention to, if you do have terms on your payables and you do give terms on your receivables, make sure they're in balance. Don't set up 15-day payables and 30-day receivables. You know, so pay attention to that. Again, as I've talked about before, granular reporting. You know, just know your operation, know your numbers, know your trends. That will certainly help, as that one example that I gave. And then when you do have a line of credit, revolve it. We're expected, you know, when you do get that cash in, pay it down on the line that you used you know, for your goods and services, that what it costs to produce those. The difference, the little bit of the profit that you generate, that goes to, you know, paying your fixed up costs. But we really look at revolving the credit. Now, you may have been told that lenders like to see that have a rest period where it's down to zero for like 30 days. I don't prescribe to that, particularly with growing companies. It's virtually impossible to rest it if you're growing. because that need for cash is going to keep growing. But you still need to revolve it. You still need to show that, you know, it's not revolving into permanent, it's not turning into permanent working capital. And then finally, you know, if you have a great idea, it's taking off, you need to scale it quickly. You need to scale it quickly. You look at any of the tech people, they all talk about, you know, they really went out and scaled quickly. That's what the Bubble Tap is doing. They're getting private investors for some franchising operations, and you know, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So do not rule that out. Do your homework where you can raise capital. That can help you get that great idea off the ground and scaled. And then finally, I think I have my last one. I've talked pretty long here, but my last slide, Josh, if you could, yeah, we go. This is something we use at CalCoast. It's just long-term planning, and we call it Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3, or we simplify it H1, H2, H3. And all too often, businesses, including ourselves, get stuck in Horizon 1, which is just, here's your core business. We're going to keep it going, and we're going to defend it. It's a mature business. You might have an idea like my daughters did, the mixology, or maybe into bar catering services, and that kind of builds upon that growing business. That's the H2. Please focus on the H3. When the pandemic hit, and even now, they create time just for strategic planning every week, and it's busy. And that's where their franchising operation, they franchise in California and Illinois, various states. They have licenses in 6 different cities. And so they've kept their eye on that H3 and just made time for it. So that's my long-winded speech. Thanks for listening. Josh, do you want to, before we move on to Angel, is there any questions that we want to answer at this point, or do we want to move along and then catch them at the end?
No questions at this point. I'll keep an eye on it, see if anyone has any. Oh, here we go.
Can you tell if everybody's still awake, Josh? Is that still?
It says that they are attentive, yes, 90%,
okay, good.
100% of them. Any free mentor programs or nonprofits that can help small business?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'll save that for Lisa's section. The SBA is great. There's a CDC in town. I don't know if we have that information on our slide, but we can certainly get it out to the group. You've got all their, so yes, there is underutilized assets out, or you know, services out there, and Lisa will kind of go into that a little bit. So we'll save that question to her, and otherwise we'll just turn it over to Angel.
All right.
You're on mute, Angel.
Thanks for that, Rob. I'm already halfway into my speech. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angel Nolasco, the Business Services Officer for California Coast Credit Union. I've been here for about 4 years now, and I have a little over 10 years of business banking experience under my belt. Very similar to my audience today of business owners, I'm also actively working to build the foundation of our business services department, and I'm working to grow and develop products and services to meet the needs of those I serve, which is you guys, my business owners. To start off with, we offer a core set of accounts to facilitate standard business operations. We offer business checking accounts, business savings accounts, money market accounts, and we even have the ability to establish CDs under the name of the business. Establishing a business relationship with a bank or a financial institution is one of the most important things that you guys can do. It begins your financial relationship, and it typically begins your quote-unquote clock for time in business. And as many of you already know, most financial institutions look for 2 years in business for any lending requests. As you begin to grow your financial relationship, we'll look to provide you with the most cost-effective products and services that are going to meet the needs of your business and serve to facilitate your business operations. With respect to those operations, we have an online platform which allows for banking functionality, as well as the ability to deposit checks remotely. In addition, we're excited to announce that that whole experience is going to undergo a transformation and an update to provide specific business functionality to the business owners working online. And we expect that update to happen in about the next year or so. Currently, we offer a term loan, a business term loan, and a business line of credit for our established businesses. Our products are pretty traditional in the sense that we look for 2 years in business. We conduct a full financial review. We require a personal guarantee, and we're going to seek collateral for each product. The term loan is designed for the purchase of business equipment, and we leverage that equipment as the collateral, whereas the business line of credit is secured by accounts receivables and inventory, and it requires a yearly review. Along the lines of business lending, we're also currently working on developing business credit cards and business auto loans. And we've identified those to be a big priority, especially the business credit cards. And we're working hard to launch the business credit cards by the end of the year. In order to provide high quality business services to our members, we've also partnered with NewTek to assist us in meeting the needs of our business owners. So NewTek works with us to provide services in the area of merchant services, payroll services, web and IT services. And not only does it work to benefit our partnership, but it also works in favor of the business owners. Recently, we expanded our partnership with NewTek to allow them to work with us for PPP. Some of those businesses that were already working with NewTek for merchant services or payroll services were able to be a step ahead since NewTek already had their financial activity and had their payroll statements on their books. So that was a huge advantage for people already working with us for our business services. In regards to PPP, you can find some more information on PPP on our website. And in our next upcoming newsletter, we'll be sending some more detailed information around PPP as well. In addition to some of the currently offered federal and state programs, California Coast has identified this to be an area where we can really work to support our business members. So we're also currently working to launch the Small Business Emergency Relief Loan, which is a product designed to provide assistance to our business owners that have suffered challenges to the pandemic. So we're pretty close to launching this product, and we hope to make it available in the next coming weeks. So when it does become active, we will be sending communication to all our business members via email. So I would highly encourage you to be on the lookout if that's something that interests you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lisa Celli, who is our Vice President of Commercial Lending. Go ahead, Rob.
I promised I'd try to stay quiet, but if I could kibitz just a bit here,
sure.
Add on a couple things. The merchant services obviously is processing debit and credit cards. Angel, would you? I know it's coming soon, and we've said that a few times here, but it's exciting that we're coming up with all these new products. But there's an online same-day merchant services product that NewTek is offering. Do you want to comment on that, or?
Sure. So we are working on implementing. Once again, like Rob described, we're constantly looking for ways to provide products and services to our business owners. And one of those products that we identified is a way for our business owners to create their merchant services. And it's like a self-help tool, which is fully automated and it's fully controlled by you as the business owner. What we were finding was that a lot of business owners were not being able to find resources around merchant services. So they were taking advantage of products like Square, things that attach to your phone. And it was an automated channel that they would use to obtain these services. So now in partnership with NewTek, we're soon going to be launching these capabilities so that when you have that need, you'll be able to activate that yourself. You'll be able to provide information. And like Rob described, literally that same day, you'll be able to start accepting credit cards for your business.
On a virtual basis, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. And the other thing, I really encourage all small businesses to use some sort of payroll service. It was particularly helpful for those businesses who applied for PPP loans to have really solid payroll numbers from a payroll service. The ones that really struggled did not have that, and so they're just almost an automatic now in my book for any small business. So anyway, I'll let Lisa go now. Sorry.
No worries, Rob. Thank you. Josh, if you could advance to the next slide. I'll be speaking today about pandemic-specific resources that are available actually outside of the credit union, as Rob mentioned earlier. So first up is the Small Business Administration, or the SBA. Josh, if you could advance. Perfect. So Angel already spoke to you about our offerings for the Paycheck Protection Program with the SBA, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on that one. But aside from the PPP program, there are EIDL loans available, and that stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That loan is not forgivable. However, you can apply for it even if you already applied for and received PPP money. So that's just another avenue that you could take for additional funds. In addition to that, the SBA is working to implement a shuttered venue operators grant. That's the third icon here. And that's for businesses such as museums, movie theaters, live venue operators. The new CARES Act, or Phase 2, has specific money set aside for these types. So it will be coming out, and loan amounts are up to 45% of your gross revenue. Now, one thing I do want to mention with this program, if there's anybody that's in sort of the performing arts or movie theater type business on here, if you receive a PPP loan after December 27th, 2020, you are not eligible for this grant. So just something to keep in mind as we have PPP open and applications are being accepted. In addition to this grant program, the next one is the Express Bridge Loan. This is for businesses that actually already have an established relationship with an SBA Express lender. The program is used in combination with an EIDL loan, and what it is, it provides up to $25,000 really quickly and is used to bridge the gap while the EIDL application is being reviewed by the SBA and approved and funded. That can take a little bit of time, and you can pay the bridge loan in full or in part from your EIDL proceeds, but those two products are really designed to go hand in hand. So aside from grant and loan programs, the SBA is also offering debt relief. And this is for businesses that had a traditional SBA loan. So nothing pandemic related, no relief program, no economic disaster, just your standard SBA 504 or 7A loan. They are offering payment deferrals and debt relief for periods up to 6 months. So that's a high-level overview of the SBA, and now we're going to toggle over into some tax relief options. Josh, if you could advance. Oh, perfect. So the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration is providing 90-day extensions for those businesses that would have a filing due date between December 15th, 2020 and April 30th, 2021. Those are the crucial dates that are within scope for all of the tax relief offerings that I'm going to be discussing today. The chart on the slide here mentions what the extended due dates are based on your filing schedule. So in addition to that, the only other requirement for the extension is that you have to be reporting less than $1 million in tax on the return that's due in the focal date between December 15th and April 30th. In addition to extending the filing dates, the Tax and Fee Administration is also offering a 12-month interest-free payment plan, up to $50,000 of sales and use tax liability. You're eligible if you have less than $5 million in taxable annual sales. And again, it's if that filing was between December 15th, 2020 and April 30th, 2021. Included in the slide is a link to apply, as well as a phone number for additional questions that you can utilize to just get more details around the program. Okay, next slide, please, John. Ooh, back one. Okay, awesome. So separate from the SBA, there is an organization referred to as iBank, and that iBank is offering loan relief programs as well. It has less stringent qualification and use of fund guidelines compared to the SBA. On this slide, I'm just going to hone in on that middle square there, where it says that employers can have up to 750 employees. This is one example of the less stringent guidelines. It's quite a bit higher than what SBA offers for most businesses. So if you could go to the next slide. So how does iBank work? iBank partners with certified lenders. Again, you have to meet certain eligibility requirements, but the iBank will guarantee a loan up to 95% with a maximum guarantee of $1 million for a term up to 7 years. So for interest rates, you have to work and negotiate with the lender and the iBank, and it'll just depend on the strength of your business. So there are no set rates, but again, 7-year terms, they'll guarantee 95% up to $1 million. This next slide, Josh, if you could advance, kind of highlights some of the participating lenders that service Southern California. In addition to those listed here, I'm just going to call out a few banks that have San Diego presence that are also partners with iBank, and those banks include City National Bank, Bank of California, and California Bank and Trust. The link down at the bottom here will give you a full list of all certified iBank lending partners, and there's also an email for questions. So this is a high-level summary of all the offerings for various pandemic relief programs. It's not fully comprehensive. We could talk for hours about all the different ones that are offered. But as mentioned previously by Josh, this is being recorded and it will be sent to you. So you'll have access to all the links and emails and phone numbers. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Josh and we'll open it up if anyone has any questions.
I would add back to that original question. Again, the SBA has a lot of resources in terms of mentoring and so forth. I would recommend their site. And I was racking my brain while everybody was talking. There's another organization, and I have a contact there, and it's slipping my mind, which isn't unusual nowadays. But what I will do is get that information to Josh. And I think you've got all the emails for the attendees. And there is one other organization that I think would be really good. And if I could, I will find it, and we'll get that out to you. So.
In my experience, I've also worked with an organization called Accion. It's spelled ACCION. They're locally based here. They're locally based here in San Diego. They're a really good resource for small businesses or even small businesses that don't qualify for traditional bank lending. They're really good to work with. So I would recommend checking them out if you're looking for alternates.
And they were listed, I think, as one of the San Diego area service providers for iBank. So they must have a lot of programs.
And I would just offer, I'm going to offer Angel's time here, but you don't have to call him just to request a loan or something else. He's more than happy to sit down and talk to you about your particular situation and brainstorming and just seeing what might be the best way, for you to proceed. So, and we usually work as a team anyway, so we all huddle and talk about these things. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Angel, and he'll be the point person, but we're happy to talk to you just about any subject regarding your business. And in fact, we look forward to it. It's a lot of fun.
And very much to Rob's point, that's something that I really pride myself on and something that I communicate to all partners that I interact with. And that is that I'm your official resource to the credit union. So any questions, any discussions, definitely reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to have a conversation. And once again, to highlight Rob's point, we are a very good working team. So we do have a good habit of huddling up and discussing any business interactions that we do have to be able to best meet the needs of our business owners.
So with that, Josh, any more questions pop up?
No more questions currently, but man, this has been a ton of great info. I can't wait to get this out to everyone who attended today, but also those who couldn't attend live. I'm sure they will go back and take a look at this and get a lot of great info from it. So again, appreciate you presenting today and joining us. This was a lot of fun, and even I learned some great stuff. I want to encourage everyone, again, if you could take the time to fill out the survey at the end. We want to know, was this useful and what else can we provide for you? We're looking to do more of these types of webinars that focus on business owners and getting through these times as a business owner and providing the services that are needed. And so we need to know from you what we can do. So please take the time to fill that out.
Absolutely, Josh. We could narrow it down into those topics that we could really get into some nitty gritty. I would be glad to do that. So yeah,
definitely. So we don't have any questions, but I did include Angel's email in the chat box if anyone would like to contact Angel if anything comes up afterwards. So again, hope everyone stays safe, stays well. Thank you again to Rob, Lisa, and Angel for presenting today. And we will see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.